Foundation, a cozy city builder on the surface, but with challenging economic and manufacturing mechanics underneath. But should you buy it right now? This video will answer all of your questions by starting with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, so you can tap out early if it doesn't appeal to you. Then we'll see what it's like to actually play it, by packing in as much detail about the gameplay as humanly possible, before looking at some more practical considerations and the different types of players this game might appeal to help you decide whether this game is worth your time and money today. In Foundation, you will purchase small plots of land on which you'll build a variety of resource production buildings, while allocating workers to both create and transport goods to where they're needed, with several end goals to choose from, such as military or economic dominance, or simply creating at your own pace. On the surface, Foundation is similar to Settlers, Anno 1800, or Manor Lords, where you expand your population while ensuring you satisfy everyone's increasingly complex needs, trading away any excess for profit or investing it into your military. But Foundation has engaging progression, with multiple intriguing paths to pursue, plus there are no grids, leaving you to build what you want, where you want. So even economic-focused players end up with a beautiful-looking town. While you can build and equip an army, all engagements happen off-map. So whether you prefer a head-scratching economic city builder with an ever-growing army, or a relaxing creative mode experience creating picturesque towns, Foundation might be your cup of tea. If that hasn't put you off, then grab a drink and get comfortable as we look through the detail of what you actually do in Foundation. When starting a new game of Foundation, you first get to choose between a seemingly infinite choice of maps with rolling hills, lakes, and winding rivers. After that, you can fully customize the game rules, which determine how much money you start with, as well as other economic factors, how happy or unhappy your citizens will be, as well as how difficult the military missions are. Or indeed, you could choose the creative option to build freely, with no economic constraints. Next, you select your aspirations, 3 of which force you to concentrate on one of the 3 progression paths, which we'll discuss later, or a 4th option to do whatever the heck you like. Then after some creativity on your house emblem, village name, and title, you're ready to start a game of Foundation, with a helpful tutorial giving you mini objectives along the way, or totally alone. At the beginning of the game, you will purchase a small plot of land. Although small, the plots of lands that you choose from can vary significantly, whether it be their physical shape and size, or the resources that they contain. Once you have saved up some money, and can afford the additional upkeep cost, you will soon expand by purchasing land adjacent to what you currently own, based on what you feel you need at the time. As the plots of land are small, you'll be doing this often, with no other players or AI on the map to consider. Much like other city builders, you instruct your initial workers to construct buildings with your starting resources, then allocate those workers to harvest wood and stone for construction and berries for food to kickstart your economy. There are many resources in the game, along with several different production chains, some of which are rather long themselves, especially when you create weapons. Each resource harvested will be stored at that worker's workplace, but storage there is limited, so you'll soon construct a warehouse or granary that have their own workers. And once you've allocated which resource will be stored there, they'll bring the resources to that central hub. From there, construction resources will be picked up by builders as required, and food will be picked up by a worker allocated to a market that has that particular food selected. All of this means where your workers live, compared to where they work, compared to where the relevant resources are stored, all feeds into efficiency, to ensure you can produce enough to keep your citizens happy by meeting their needs. Meeting each citizen's needs, or not, will determine an overall level of happiness of your people. This overall level will determine how many new arrivals show up every now and again, giving you the option to accept those new arrivals into your town to expand your workforce, and of course, expand how much food, etc. you need to produce. Failing to meet a particular citizen's needs will eventually lead to them leaving your village. At first, your citizens have relatively basic needs. Some food from a market, some water from a well, and a place to live will keep a steady stream of new arrivals to slowly grow your population. Housing in this game is interesting in that you don't place specific houses to be built. You paint certain areas of land, and then your citizens will automatically build housing within that painted area, which leads to organic-looking housing that tries to squeeze into the freehand areas that you've painted for your housing to go, with some considerations, such as citizens not wanting their house to be too near industrial buildings. Once your population has expanded and you've figured out how to meet their initial needs, you have the option to pay to upgrade your basic citizens one by one. An upgraded citizen will have more needs, but will have greater output for certain higher level jobs and will pay more tax. There are 3 levels of citizens in total, and you'll generally want to make sure you'll meet their upgraded needs before upgrading them. Otherwise, you'll tank your overall happiness, which could send you into a death spiral. Housing becomes more interesting once you start upgrading citizens, as they not only want better food with greater variety, they also want certain things for their house, such as light fortification protection from a nearby tower or walls, along with a certain level of beautification. Once you meet the increasing level of requirements, a house will be upgraded, which will then meet the needs of high-level citizens, as well as significantly increasing the number of citizens that can live in that house, making it far more efficient. But house upgrades take time and a lot of wood and stone. By the time you've placed enough beautification and fortification to upgrade your housing, you'll already have a natural-looking and protected town without having even scratched the surface of the customization options. One of the key features of Foundation is the lack of grid system. Not only can you build what you like, where you like, you can also construct buildings on top of each other so they morph into all sorts of weird and wonderful combinations. You only need to ensure the entrances to buildings aren't blocked. Otherwise, the only limit is your imagination to further customize the look and feel of your town. At first, constructing most buildings is a one-and-done experience, but as you progress through the tech tree, you will eventually unlock additions you can construct, either attached to or in range of the existing building, that will improve it in some way. Usually increasing the number of workers you can have work there, or expanding the storage capacity. These additions take the form of realistic additions to these buildings, such as a tool rack or bundle of hay, that further varies the aesthetic of your town while providing you with economic benefit for doing so. However, some of the larger set-piece buildings require multiple sections before they will become operational. For example, a door to gain entry. Some buildings require a separate chimney, and you're given a wide variety of choice in both what that precise door or chimney will look like and where you can place them. Then also, later in the game, many buildings can be expanded to increase their capacity by building upwards or outwards, further increasing the variety in your buildings. As a purely economy-focused player, I ended up building beautiful towns almost by accident due to the non-grid nature and being incentivized to add features and change my buildings as the game progressed. Once your citizens are happy, you can set a level of tax on a sliding scale. And the higher the level on this sliding scale, the more of a hit their happiness will take. But sometimes needs must, with higher level citizens paying more tax. Your land and most buildings come with an upkeep cost, so there's always a bit of a drain on your ever-expanding town's finances. But in addition to taxation, there is much trading to be done with the AI. Over time, you will unlock and upgrade different trade routes with different AI-controlled towns that are off the map. You set which resources you want to buy and sell, then you must wait for traders to arrive. They'll only buy or sell a little bit of what you want, but upgrading the trade route will increase the volumes, and there are ways to influence the buy and sell prices, all of which further helps you to manage your cash flow, which can be rather challenging at times. There isn't an overworld map as such. In fact, your contact with any outsiders is off-map, except the occasional trader or messenger. There also isn't a day-night cycle or seasons. You grow and harvest crops, but they take 5 minutes to grow, harvest, then start over. You can have an army by recruiting, training, and equipping selected citizens, and you can build some rather awesome-looking castles and wooden or stone walls, but there are no Manor Lords-style battles. You can send your troops off to fight in certain missions. Some might die or get injured, and they'll come home with some resources, but you don't actually see any fighting. But you do get to see them marching off, which is quite fun to see. In Foundation, you can unlock and issue edicts along with privileges, which have a variety of effects on your town's statistics. You can also oversee mandates, which have a variety of uses, such as promoting villagers, discussing a one-off levy for quick cash at the expense of happiness. You can basically buy new villagers, prospect for precious metals, improve trade routes, and more. All of these things cost either resources or more likely some form of money. The game actually has 4 types of currency. Your average coins are earned and spent exactly how you would expect them to be. However, you can also earn and spend labor, kingdom or clergy influence, which takes us to the progression tree. You spend normal coins unlocking upgrades on the common path. This includes a lot of basics, such as being able to fish, make bread, build tools, work stone, build fortifications, and much more. However, the labor, kingdom, and clergy estates work slightly different. If you recall the 3 aspirations I mentioned earlier when setting up your game, you are, in effect, choosing which of the labor, kingdom, or clergy paths you will focus on in that playthrough, almost to the exclusion of others. Labor basically focuses on economy. Kingdom is on creating weapons, an army, and fighting, whereas clergy has a focus on trade and creating a big old cathedral. But it is possible to have a playthrough where you focus on all of these paths, and each one has a big and impressive monument that you build at the end. Unlocking these paths is where Foundation becomes quite niche. You firstly need a certain level of splendor to unlock each level. To do that, you basically need to increase the beautification of certain buildings, either placing things around the building or on it. Concentrating on religious buildings will increase your clergy splendor, military buildings for kingdom, and basically anything else will be labor. The currency of these different routes is called influence, which can be earned by completing mini-missions, usually by transferring resources, but there's also the mechanic whereby the amount of influence you have will increase based on your level of splendor. So if your level of splendor is 50 and you currently have 10 influence, that 10 influence will eventually increase to 50 over time. So basically, increasing your splendor will increase the influence that you can then spend to unlock things in that particular tree. It's also worth noting that the music is rather beautiful. It fits perfectly with the game, whether you're looking for a creative chill or something more fast-paced. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play Foundation, so let's address some other, more practical considerations that might affect your purchasing decision. Although not the most complex of city builders, Foundation does take time to properly click, especially in those areas such as the tech tree where it does things a little differently. As a result, expect it to take a few hours before you really get your head around everything the game has to offer. Then you may start to find there is an unfortunate lack of real endgame. Foundation is a flexible game with wide appeal. As a result, it's appropriate for those who want to spend hours being absorbed by their village building, but it's equally appropriate for those who only have an hour here or there to dedicate to gaming. Foundation is a purely solo experience. There is no multiplayer, so no games with friends on this one, unfortunately. The game left early access at the end of 2024, which saw a slight price increase. However, the game is almost always on sale with a 25% discount, so there is no need to pay full price for this game. In terms of longevity, there are mods for the game that can be installed quite simply from within the game. The mod library is relatively small at the moment, but there are some interesting mods out there already to spice up the gameplay and address quality of life issues. A note on longevity though, if you enjoy min-maxing everything and want to beat the game, there actually isn't that much in terms of endgame, at least at the moment. However, the longevity of Foundation is rewarding for those who prefer the chilled side of organic city building. So with all that said, is Foundation right for you today? As always, it depends who you are. Foundation has a wide appeal to many gamers, but its core offering is a chilled city building experience, especially within the creative mode. Those that enjoy creating organic medieval towns with plenty of creative options will absolutely love Foundation, and I do not hesitate to recommend the game if that sounds like you. If you prefer economic gameplay, then Foundation does have much to offer, though perhaps not quite as much as, say, Anno 1800, for example. Personally, economic-focused games are my preference, and I very much enjoyed Foundation, but longevity would be my concern if the creative side of the game doesn't appeal to you at all. If you enjoy big battles, then Foundation simply isn't for you. It's fun to recruit and equip an army, sending them off on missions and seeing what they bring back, but all of the action is off-screen. Ultimately, though, if you're not sure, there's a free demo, so give it a try. This game has wide appeal, so it may surprise you how easily Foundation gets its claws into you. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.